Okay, this question is from Tony. He says, Pearl, do you see a difference between a woman who has no regret for current digressions versus one who has repented, that is, from current porn, and unrepentant versus repentant and regretful? So, in other words, is there a difference between a woman who's screwed up in the past and doesn't regret it, doesn't repent of it, and then there are people who've screwed up in the past, we've all made mistakes. And
when it comes for if I phrase the question as if my brother was to like date, like if I was recommending my brother date someone, I don't think it would matter. I think that if you really want what's best for a guy, you want him to have high standards for his wife.
Trent, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think that people should choose to marry the best person for them, and choose to marry someone who has a good chance of being in a lifelong union. But not all of us, people make mistakes in their lives. But when it comes, so for example, large majorities of men look at pornography and have sex outside of marriage. That harms their future chances in marriage, but not irreparably. A much tinier percentage of women do things like be on OnlyFans, and that also harms their chances in a future marriage, but not irreparably.
I get a question because it seems like, and this is to you, and I'll get a question for you. Pearl seemed to be saying, like, you're just out of touch, like you're old, like you don't understand what it's like today. So maybe that was true for you back in the late 90s or the early 2000s, that women were marriageable, they were better. But isn't it possible that you are out of touch and that she's right just today? I mean, why don't you ask young men, and have you asked young men? Maybe they would agree with Pearl.
Sure, and when you look at studies and you look at young men who have gotten married and who stay married, they do say that women are marriageable. What Pearl is doing here is that if you create so high of a standard that no woman can meet it, you've just created
an abortion.
Hold on, you can
respond.
You've created an arbitrary standard, and it's also sexist if you don't apply the same standards to men, such as don't marry a man who has actively or passively supported an abortion, which is going to be the same percentage as women involved in abortions. I'm saying to treat men and women equally in this regard. And we do see that there's, if what Pearl's doing is the reverse of a radical feminist who says, oh, men are terrible, men are awful, look at all these awful, terrible things that men do, and say there's no good men out there. That's not true. There's plenty of good men out there. You just have an anti-male standard to exclude them. And that's the same for people who try to do the same, to say that marriage is bad because of women.
I don't think it's crazy for men to ask for an in-shape woman that didn't have an abortion, STD, or debt. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't.
No tattoos. I don't think that's crazy.
But I don't think you're saying it's crazy.
And I would say that to make it a deal breaker that you're going to pick any mistake a person makes, what you're doing is the same as a woman who says, it's not crazy for me to say, I want to marry a man who makes six figures and has a six-pack. That
no,
you
I
might
would not say those are the same.
No, because
you're
saying,
not say those are the same.
Can a woman say she wants a guy who is in shape and has a good job?
Fine.
Okay, so
that's
then we
no
have
problem.
Yeah, and then I would say that a man. So can a man be in shape if he's 15 pounds overweight?
I would say in shape is the BMI scale. So for the most part, and visceral fat, that's what you got to look at.
Okay. Do you think most middle-aged guys are are muscly, or they got a little fat?
I think again we're going back to what do men get out of marriage? I don't think it's crazy for men to say, I don't want a woman that's had an STD, an abortion, or debt.
But real quick, I don't think you think it's crazy either, right?
So and by that logic, there would not be enough wives to go around.
I would say
in
that
the next generation.
It's unreasonable, because if you applied the same standard and say for women, it's reasonable for women to not want a man who has an STD or has looked at pornography or has been involved in abortion procedures, then there wouldn't be any men later. Both men and women aren't in great shape today. You're trying to make it sound like it's all women's fault, when I'm saying it's just people's fault and we need each other.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.